Well, the next item on our agenda is something that we've often talked about in work sessions, but felt it was appropriate to talk about in our business meeting this evening, and that's a feature of staff retention data, which sounds fascinating, and it is, but the handle makes it sound like it might not be as exciting. Dr. Pilch, I think it's going to be exciting.
Well, it is exciting, and you know, there's a shortage throughout the nation for teachers, particularly secondary teachers. And so we're pleased to see that our retention is the best that it has ever been in 6 years. And I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Ayton, and I see he's getting his PowerPoint up here. We're going to turn it over to him and let him just launch right into the report and then give you all a chance to talk about it.
Danny,
thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Pilch, Mr. DeWitt, members of the Board of Education. Again, thank you for this time, both from a human resources standpoint and a chance to bring you some more good news this evening. I know that you've had a chance to look over the presentation a little bit in your packet, and I'm going to give you kind of the executive summary, short brief of it for yourselves in the community and our gathered guests today. And number one, just let you know there is good news here. I think under the backdrop of this, we need to see that you know, my name was on the internet a year ago that this was the hottest job market in the United States. And I think we have to know that we're competing in a very hot job market. Colorado just announced an unemployment rate of, what, 4.2%. Many of the retail sector are starting their holiday hiring now because they know that there is going to be a real shortage. Underneath all of that, we're experiencing record low turnover. So again, great things happening in D6, from early college academy to what's happening with our principals, our assistant principals, our classrooms, clear to the Board of Education. And so it's my pleasure to be here this evening and give you some backdrop around that. Overall, our teacher turnover was not only below state average, it was the lowest. We've hired the least number of teachers that we've hired in 6 years. Our school leadership, principals and assistant principals, is always very low, and it's the lowest it's been in 6 years. We were lucky enough to recruit from, you know, we're fortunate enough to recruit from across the United States, and we were you know, very glad to bring 30 teachers in from those recruiting fairs. Our classified turnover rate still remains just a little bit above the state average, and we'll see that we have, one of the areas where we're struggling is we have 50 currently unfilled classified positions approximately. And also, we usually at this time talk a little bit about the exit survey data. People who are leaving us, it's not a huge return. These are people that have a chance to fill out a completely anonymous report and say whatever they would like. And in general, it's about 60–61% positive. So these are people, again, this is completely anonymous, even though a few people sign them. So let's staff breakdown. Again, nothing here. This just kind of says that yes, we have about 26, while this doesn't show it, we have about 2,600 employees. This is 2,000 employees with the breakdown. The other 600 are coaches, kind of what we call one-time pays, people that maybe do some game help for us or coach an activity. Overwhelmingly, again, our largest numbers are in those classified and our certified employees. Principals, we did have 2 principals leave the district this last year, and again, that's about 7.4% of our principal cohort. And our assistant principals, we had 1 return to the classroom, so we had 4 out of 5 leave. So if we sum that up to total and we look at the historical data of our 62 base school leaders, we had 6 leave the district. That's 9.6%. It's a very low number. The principal rate, the teacher turnover rate in Colorado continues to increase. 19.5% was the principal turnover rate in Colorado, and here we are with 9.6%. It's a testament to the work that we're doing across the district and the great news that's happening both on the watch of Interim Superintendent Eads as well as our new superintendent, Dr. Pilch. Obviously below state average, lowest percentage again in 6 years departed. And here's something else we know. Again, it's very apropos that we're talking about our partnership with UNC. Having that cohort every 2 years is really a boon for us. So last year was a cohort year, and when we hire in the cohort year, it's a lot more comfortable for us to hire from the principal, that assistant principal cohort that's going on with UNC, and we're very fortunate to have that. So this year is going to be another year where we're kind of in between cycles, and there's not as many leadership graduates. That's really the principal headlines. Let's quickly move to the teacher headlines. There's historical data in here, and there's a couple things that you need to see. Yes, we use what we call that Gallup Insight interview. It's really a talent potential. Here's what you really need to know when you see that 69 number from 6 years ago, is that's about 45th percentile talent. And again, those were people leaving our system. If we move ahead to today, what we're seeing that people are leaving our system, we're at 74, that number. So the numbers jump from about 45th percentile talent to over 60th percentile talent potential. And these are people that have left our system. One of the other pieces of good news in here is that we are doing, again, an increasingly better job hiring. We're looking for people who want that mission work, who want to work in a place where they're truly going to make a difference. And what's different about millennials, folks, is they're asking questions. They're not asking about, do you have schools? They're asking about, what kind of PD do you offer? They really want some of the things that we offer to make us competitive. And having, school-wide PBIS across the district, having $2 million of professional development, having varied programs, and some of those things where they can, maybe work in an ECA is absolutely critical. And that's the questions that millennials are asking in the new teacher workforce to us. But you also see in the middle of that, we had that lowest turnover rate, 178 new hires. It breaks down like this. So if we look at the year before, there were 58 non-renewals, and this year we had 52. I told you that this is also the lowest number of non-renewals we've had, and we had about 37 of them for personnel or kinds of reasons that were fit or something like that. We're going to have some turnover. And in the hottest job market in the United States, when you saw the note, if we extrapolate the regional quit rate, it could be as high as 24%, because they report it monthly at 2%. They're in the #1 job market. I'm telling you, we've had the lowest teacher turnover in 6 years. And the talent potential is there. We've increased the talent potential from 45 to over 60 percentile talent. When you break it out by level, it's kind of hard to read the tea leaves on this. It jumps around. You would say, well, this has got to be a high school thing. There's got to be more teachers turning over in a high school. Well, some years. Not this year. And so we actually had a big jump in K-8. So we had some retirements and some areas and things there happen. So this one's hard to read, but I would tell you as your Chief Human Resource Officer, I don't think there's any news here. I don't think it's alarming. This moves around a little bit, and that shows you kind of the breakdown by level of the 178. Here's a little bit of news that I think you need to hear. Richard Ingersoll in 2003 was sort of the father of the 50% turnover rate of new teachers. He speculated, took a wild guess a little bit based on he was the national leading expert on new teachers getting out. Well, that became urban legend, urban lore, that new teachers quit at a 50 percentile rate. We've all heard that now. The National Center for Educational Statistics actually started following a national cohort of teachers in 2008. What they found out, the truth on those people after following them 4 years, is that 17.3% of them were out, and that 10% of that 17% left after the first year. So what's the truth? 50% was a guess, probably, by Dr. Ingersoll, well, where the truth, and then they followed this cohort around 17, so the truth's probably a little bit somewhere in the middle. But we know that we're going to lose about, probably any of us, 1 in 10 by this data of a new service teacher. And I think that that's important for us to also have that as a backdrop. So in here. And it said about a quarter of those were actual non-renewals for performance. So again, we're kind of extrapolating. We're below that because our principals are doing a much better job hiring, the last few years. And we're really looking at talent and really asking the right questions. We've helped them from HR really look at some questions that get at some of the talents and strengths of teaching in a more urban setting. It's not the same questions, and you have to have more talent to work in a place where our kids need more of you. And that's just absolutely the truth. But here it is, folks. Here's the good news. Last year, teacher turnover in Colorado was 16.5%. It jumps to 17.1%. Look where we are. There are districts on this list, those first two, who pay significantly more than we do. There are some who pay less on that list, but there are some who pay more. But notice where we're at, and that's really a testament to the hard work of everyone in the district, the teachers, the principals, to really be focused on this number and that percentage. We also in HR, like I said, we recruit across the nation. You'll notice that we have less interviews. It looks like we were more successful, and I think in some ways we were, because what we really did is we found out that targeting and following up with people is the key. Millennials need the soft touch. So we were interviewing a lot more people and hoping we could pull them in. We really specifically targeted people, and that's why you see what looks like a drop in interviews, because we were more picky, but we want to make sure that they follow through with applications. So it really is about getting bang for your buck with that. We're instituting a thing this year where what we're doing to make sure we can track these people, because we have to bring back that stack of resumes. It takes about a week to do it, and then by then, there's 5 other districts contacting them. So we're actually taking iPads to the teacher fair. You come to speak to us, you're gonna fill in a Google form, you're gonna pop in your information, and Annette, myself, and Robert are gonna start sending emails the next day. Because we've seen that these candidates that are at 5 or 6 districts, their cell phone number gets in my cell phone. I mean, it's that kind of relationship. We had 2 teachers this year come in 2 or 5 of our schools. Before they went to 3 districts, 5 schools in our district, and we were able to land 2 of 3 of those people. So the world of recruiting is changing, and that's a good thing. It really is a good thing, because it's what you've heard tonight. When we can get people in our buildings, we can get people in the district. You've heard here's the review. Teacher turnover was below the state average. We had the lowest number of new hires in 6 years. Here's another thing. Besides the hottest job market, you need to hear this. The Colorado Department of Higher Ed reports that over the last 4 years, Colorado colleges turning out educators has dropped 22.8%. Here's the other shoe. What we're hearing at national recruiting fairs and stuff is that we're going to see another 20% reduction in the next 2 years. Yeah, I see the worry in the faces about hard to fill and hard to recruit is going to get harder. We've also seen it in our data, so I was curious and pulled our data. We've gone to a year ago, 13-14 hiring year, to just under 1,400 applications to just under 900 applications. So we've seen our application rate also fall 30%. So it's concerning. So the inspirational efforts, the going across the United States, the work that we're doing across the district, climate, culture, retaining people, it's the right work, but it's getting harder out there, folks. And we want to let you know that. So when you really look at all this as a backdrop, it's like, oh, it's amazing, all the hard work that we've done to be able to make sure we've retained the people and that we're doing an amazing job. We got a little work to do, obviously, in classified. We're happy that the rate fell 5%, but if you look at the fine print, the classified turnover for the state of Colorado was 23.3, and the para rate was 26.7. Colorado breaks it out, and our classified rate was 25.2. These are people who are a lot of times who we're in direct competition with JBS and Leprino and the other people in our community, and so these are people that are really chasing a salary, and we know that our classified and all of our salaries aren't where we would want them to be. And as I told you, we had a slightly higher turnover rate here. We did have the lowest number of terminations, people who didn't work out, but also having those 50 positions is of concern for us right now. Get to the exit survey data. You have a handout in front of you, and this kind of breaks it down. Yes, you have a color handout in front of you, and I will tell you, pastel, green, and the kind of purple, blue, green are better in the pie, and this was kind of an overall. Notice that basically over 2 years we only have 131 responses. This slide you have in front of you, again, green and blue bars are better. The longer bars from the left to right, the longer bars, the green bars are better.
Okay, thank you.
But the synopsis is this. About 61% said they're satisfied or very satisfied. They're concerned about some things. Something you've been working on, district mission and strategic plan. They're concerned about that, and we're doing that work right now. They're concerned a little bit about department morale and some of the management. They get it. But also, they felt valued in the nature of their work. They loved their coworkers, and they loved the benefits, and they were even okay with the salary. So we know it's not enough if we're going to continue in this very red-hot job market where we're losing graduates to retain them. But they understood their job expectations, and they felt that someone was interested in their ongoing development and encouraged it. So I think there's some, and this is across to everybody. So the way I'm able to use this data is when these reports come in, and remember, it is completely anonymous. So a lot of times I can take that data and actually go back to a principal or a supervisor and ask them and probe a little bit about that. And so it's another way that we're kind of improving the district one survey at a time. And it allows me to have that, keep that anonymous, but also go back to that supervisor, that principal, that hiring manager, and have a really good conversation. Folks, it's always a pleasure to bring you good news. We still have work to do. We got to get that strategic plan done. We got to continue to recruit and go across the nation and find the best teachers and the colleagues for our teachers as well as our paraprofessionals. We have work to do, but I'll tell you what, it is awesome to be able to see the fruition of a few years worth of work, both on the hiring end and the retention end. So it's my pleasure to bring this to you this evening.
Dr. Aiden, thank you very much for the information. You know that every year we follow this data religiously, and so you put it in a format that is easy for us to kind of get our minds around. And bringing good news is great, but bringing us the challenge of how to continue is another point. Let me go ahead and quickly say that the meeting gets even more exciting, but we know that you all have homework to do. So if our faculty in the room would like to take a pause, you're more than welcome to do so. Otherwise, stick around. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming.
And thank you very much. So Dr. Aiden, Dr. Richard has a comment. Maybe others have a comment or question, if you don't mind.
On the exit survey data,
Correct.
You said there were 131 responses over a 2-year period.
Correct.
So a lot of times when people leave a job, that's
Correct.
a hard time to gather data. How do we go about trying to get that data? Because 131 over 2 years is statistically pretty low, and understandably low, but.
It is understandably low. So we actually send it out in bunches. We get a little bunch of people who've severed from the district, and then we send it to like current email and any email addresses that we have and do that. We're not calling them, we're not doing those things, but we're giving them that way to do it. We also offer any of them when they exit, we say we'll do a personal sit-down interview with you as well if there's things that you would like us to know. So I would say this last group, we sent out I think 50 or 60, and we got 10 back. That was a big number. You usually get, nationwide, you're going to get about 2 or 3% on an exit survey. We're probably a little bit below that, but we tell them it's completely anonymous and tell us whatever, and they're not burning us down in flames. They're not saying this is the worst place in the world to work. There's some news in there. I think it is a small number, and so it's very hard for me to recommend for you to go make program changes based on the small data. So to me, it's really, like I said, it's really kind of improving the district, one site, one survey, one bit of feedback at a time right now.
Right, okay,
Correct.
that's what I wanted to know about. Do we have any idea of do we collect the piece of whether they've resigned, retired, in an end of assignment, or a non-renewal with this, so we really don't have that breakout either?
We do not. We just
Okay.
know you're not with us, and we give you that chance to say whatever you'd like.
Yeah, okay. You also mentioned the UNC cohort and the Grow Your
Correct.
Own. Would you describe that a little bit more?
So it has other these are people that are taking through a master's degree in ed leadership at UNC. It's basically a 2-year program where, in conjunction, many of them are our teachers and our people who we're growing to be leaders, but there are other people from the area, but it's primarily D6 employees who are teachers, who are teacher leaders, who say, I want to get a master's, I want to be on that track to be an educational leader and make a difference in a leadership way. And so it's very exciting for us to work with our directors, and so Mr. Tuttle, Mr. Messling, Ms. Van Soest obviously work with those people, and then they do internships oftentimes in our schools. So they're teamed up, they're teaching, and on their free periods and lunch periods, they're learning how to get those hours in and learning how to be a principal or assistant principal. That connection is that they're in D6, they're dedicated to what we're doing, they know what we're doing, yet they also have a chance to get those hours and learn, and then take the courses through UNC, and they're getting excellent preparation there as well. So it's a win for UNC, it's a win for us, it's a win all the way around.
Okay.
So.
And then finally, it's not lost on me and
Yep.
on us that there were 1/5 fewer graduates in education
Yes.
than before, and that's looking to increase, and that will have a significant impact. So worrisome.
Yes, ma'am, and it's of concern, and that's why, given where we're at with the low, low turnover, the high retention, that's great news.
Yeah, right.
But it's on all of our shoulders to keep that momentum going.
Yeah.
And the work that we're doing in the district, from the boardroom to the classroom, is really critical to continue to do that, to have a welcoming environment, to do the things that the millennials are telling us they want, which is professional development, embedded job coaching. They want that. They really do. They want someone to come help them be better and develop them. And that's when Annette and Robert and I and our staff are at fairs. They don't, in the old days, we know when we recruited, you packed a salary schedule and that was it. You get to that later. They want to know these other things. How are you going to develop me as a person? What's the climate and culture of the district? How much PD do you offer? And when all the districts in our region offer like $10 and we offer a couple $1 million, that is such a feather in our cap. So I'm on Dr. Dattery. Hey, I need that PD catalog because we need to take it out on the recruiting road, because then we slap it on the table and people are like, wow. And so that's a major recruiting tool for us, which you guys see it and teachers see it as, this is a way to make our teachers better. It's a way to get their colleagues better that we bring in the door as well. So it's really good. I mean, it's a different way to look at what we do with professional development and what we do with coaching. Those things matter because that's what they're asking.
Important things to know. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Mr. Richards.
Again, thank you. I think that, looking back, I have a couple of thoughts looking back at this. I think that we've seen our professional development grow a lot, and kind of this concept of training our own and getting better from within has been
Correct.
really important in this process. I think still, though, we had significantly higher turnover for quite a while. And
Yep.
I don't know if our board members, but it was about 1.5 years ago, we initially began talks about strategic planning and about the vision for the district. And one of the major things we talked about was culture. And it was said over and over about culture and about lightening the load for our teachers.
Correct.
And about listening to our teachers. And I think that the results of lower turnover is an effect of having great leaders listen to that, having a board with a unified direction about
Correct.
doing that, and having good leadership implement that. So I just think Wayne did a tremendous
Yes.
job about going out and listening to teachers, and people felt legitimately cared about. And this is what happens when people feel cared about. And
Right.
I think that this is a big part of that. And I know Dr. Pilch is going to continue that, and we've had discussions about that. I don't think we're going to stop
No.
that mantra of the culture and about caring for people. And I think that we'll see this as a trend of low turnover if we do that. So I'd like to thank everybody and remind our board about that, how great things can be when we come to understand a common vision, and that it can be implemented really well. Thank you.
Thank you for all of your leadership.
Ms. Solis.
So on the exit surveys, you said that you send them out in a bunch. So does that mean that everyone gets them, or you just have a select group?
No, everyone gets them.
Okay.
So rather than send them out one by one, that's just not very efficient. So we'll wait sometimes a month. The summer ones go out kind of at the end of the summer. There's usually a big bunch, 50, 60 in August, when things kind of settle down hiring, and we'll do a bunch then. And so when we get sort of a 30, 40, 50, we send them that way.
Okay.
But everyone who severs from the district gets one.
Okay. And then just kind of a follow-up. Obviously, nationally, we're really struggling with teachers.
Correct.
And, we see a lot of different things going on with different boards that are making things a little difficult. And so, again, I'm just really, really pushing our negotiation groups to really work together and take things to that next level and do things different. I mean, even if it means using a different mediator, whatever the means that it needs to be different, and we need to move forward. And it's not a horrible district to work in, and we have wonderful teachers, so there just has to be a way that we work together to move this stuff forward.
Ms. Solis.
Yep, amazing stuff.
Don't see any other comments from anyone on the board at this time, except suddenly I see Mr. Hall has a comment.
One quick. I was with a corporation one time when they were doing exit interviews, and I did some experimentation. with holding them for 30, 60 days or
Correct.
whatever, and doing them in batches. And they actually went back, because we were having trouble getting feedback. There'd been a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and
Right.
we were having trouble getting feedback. They found that the quicker they got it out, the people would respond. If it was like
Okay.
30 to 60 days, it's like, well, I'm 2 months out now.
Okay.
And toss it. So I don't know if that applies,
Well,
but,
that's-
but they found that it made a substantial
I
difference.
I appreciate the feedback. We'll send them in smaller batches and sooner, and I can have, Ms. King in my office just say, if you have 20 and that's a month, then send them, and we'll get them out quicker. We can do that. I think it's good feedback. I do. We'll see if it helps. Thank you.
Thanks.
Again, thank you for your
Great,
leadership.
thank you very much
Thanks,
for coming in to
Stephanie.
present and giving us a package of good news and a promise of more.